Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the news from SABA Satellite Channel. From here tonight's top stories.
PLC member Al-Khanbashi reviews development programs in Hadramaut.
Minister of Information says regional attacks reflect coordinated Iranian strategy.
Saudi Arabia condemns a drone attack while some Arab states voice solidarity.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Presidential Leadership Council member and Hadramaut Governor Salim Al-Khabashi met in Mukalla with representatives of Friedrich Ebert Foundation's in Yemen office and the SAES Organization for Diplomatic and Development Human Rights to review ongoing and planned development programs. The discussions focused on strengthening cooperation with the local authority in support of political development, institutional capacity building, and the empowerment of civil society organizations. Al-Khabashi received a briefing on key initiatives implemented during the past period, including trade union leadership training, support for by-elections within labor unions, and programs promoting political development, youth empowerment, and human rights. The meeting also reviewed the organization's strategic plan for future projects. Al-Khabashi praised the role of Friedrich Ebert Foundation and the SAES organization in promoting political and civic awareness, stressing that partnerships with capable international and local organizations are essential to advancing good governance, community participation, and stronger public institutions.
The Yemeni government has strongly condemned the drone attack targeting Saudi Arabia, saying the unmanned aircraft were launched by the militias affiliated with the Iranian regime from Iraqi territory. In a statement, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs described the attack as a dangerous escalation and a flagrant violation of state sovereignty that threatens regional peace and security. It said the incident reflects Iran's continued strategy of using armed proxy groups to destabilize the region. The ministry reaffirmed Yemen's full solidarity with Saudi Arabia and its support for all measures taken by the kingdom to protect its territory, citizens, and national security. It added that Iran's network of armed groups now poses a direct threat not only to individual states but also to regional security, international shipping, and global economic stability. The ministry noted that Yemen has been among the countries most affected by Iranian support for the Houthi militia, saying that support has prolonged the conflict, deepened the humanitarian crisis, targeted civilian infrastructure, and threatened navigation in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. The statement called on the international community and the United Nations Security Council to adopt a firmer response toward Iran's destabilizing activities, hold those supporting armed militias accountable, and prevent the use of any country's territory to launch attacks against other states.
Information Minister Muammar al-Eryani said the attempted drone attack on Saudi oil facilities by Iran-aligned militia in Iraq demonstrates that recent regional escalations extend beyond Yemen and reflect a broader Iranian strategy. In a statement, al-Eryani said the timing of the attack alongside recent Houthi actions indicates coordinated operations directed toward threatened energy infrastructure, international shipping, and strategic waterways, including the Red Sea and Bab el-Mandeb Strait. He argued that these developments undermine Houthi claims that their recent escalation is linked solely to the situation in Yemen, saying the attacks form part of a wider regional strategy aimed at pressuring the international community. al-Eryani warned that the continued attacks on maritime routes and energy infrastructure could disrupt global trade, energy supplies, and international supply chains, with consequences extending beyond the Middle East. He called on the international community to move beyond statements of concern by taking practical measures to protect strategic maritime routes, counter the financing and arming of the armed groups, and support Yemen's internationally recognized government in restoring state institutions and stability.
Minister of Foreign Affairs and Expatriates has welcomed decisions by the Netherlands, Belgium, and Ireland to ban the import, purchase and sale of products originating from Israeli settlements. In a statement, the ministry said the measures represent a responsible step toward addressing illegal settlement activities and reflect a practical commitment to international law and United Nations resolutions, including Security Council Resolution 2334, which states that Israeli settlements in the occupied Palestinian territory have no legal validity. The ministry also reaffirmed Yemen's long-standing support for the rights of the Palestinian people, including the establishment of an independent Palestinian state based on the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital, in line with the Arab Peace Initiative and relevant international resolutions.
Minister of Social Affairs and Labour Mukhtar Al-Yaf'i held virtual talks with Italian Ambassador to Yemen Carlo Balducci to discuss expanding bilateral cooperations in social protection, labour market regulation, vocational training, institutional capacity building and digital transformation. The two sides explored opportunities to strengthen institutional partnerships and benefit from Italian expertise in developing social policies and programs that support Yemen's recovery, development and public services. During the meeting, Al-Yaf'i also addressed the latest regional developments, saying Houthi attacks have threatened international maritime security, disrupted global trade and worsened Yemen's humanitarian and economic conditions. He called for a unified international response to hold the group accountable for actions affecting regional and international security. The minister outlined his ministry's priorities, including modernizing the social protection system, aligning vocational training with labour market needs, strengthening institutional capacity and advancing digital transformation to improve public services and transparency. He also highlighted preparations for a broad consultative meeting in Aden aimed at improving coordination with international donors and shifting toward long-term institutional partnerships. For his part, Ambassador Balducci reaffirmed Italy's commitment to continued cooperation and expressed readiness to explore practical initiatives supporting social protection, vocational training, institutional development, and employment opportunities in Yemen.
Minister of Public Works and Roads Hussein Al-Aqrabi met in Aden with a delegation from the United Nations Human Settlements Program, United Nations Habitat, to discuss implementation of the second phase of the adequate housing project in Aden, Lahj and Taiz. The project is funded by the Saudi Development and Reconstruction Program for Yemen. The meeting reviewed the project's implementation plan, the distribution of its components across the targeted governorates, and the technical and procedural standards governing its execution. Discussions also covered the proposed implementation timetable as well as coordination, supervision and monitoring mechanisms between the Ministry and United Nations Habitat to ensure the project is carried out in line with approved standards. Al-Aqrabi stressed the importance of the project in supporting the housing sector and sustainable urban development, emphasizing that implementation should be coordinated directly with the Ministry as the responsible government authority. For its part, the United Nations Habitat delegation reaffirmed its commitment to working closely with the Ministry to deliver the project's second phase according to the agreed plans and the standards.
Minister of Education and Vocational Training Dr. Anwar Al-Mahri met in Aden with National Women's Committee Chair Dr. Shafiqa Said to discuss strengthening cooperation and expanding women's participation in technical and vocational education. The meeting explored mechanisms to enhance coordination between the ministry and the committee, including increasing women's representation in public sector positions within the ministry to at least 30%, allocating admission quotas for female students in technical institutes, providing specialized training programs for girls with disabilities, and better aligning vocational education with labor market needs. Al-Mahri reaffirmed the ministry's commitment to supporting women's empowerment in the technical education sector and pledged to facilitate greater enrollment of female students in vocational and technical institutes. He also stressed the importance of involving women in developing the national strategy for technical and vocational education. For her part, Dr. Said highlighted the strategic role of technical education in national development, calling for greater support to prepare qualified female professionals, improve gender disaggregated data, and ensure fair access for women to scholarships and educational incentives.
In an alarming report, the Yemeni Network for Rights and Freedoms documented more than 6,200 violations by the Houthi militia against Yemen's health sector between January and July 2026-2020. The reported violations targeted health workers, hospitals, medical facilities, and ambulances across several governorates.
Saudi Arabia has strongly condemned the drone attack targeting its territory, saying the unmanned aircraft were launched by Iran-linked militia from inside Iraq. In a statement, the Saudi Foreign Ministry reaffirmed the kingdom's right to defend its security, sovereignty and critical infrastructure, and called on the Iraqi government to take all necessary measures to prevent its territory from being used as a launching point for attacks against Saudi Arabia. Earlier, Saudi Defense Ministry spokesman Major General Turki al-Maliki said the kingdom's air defense intercepted and destroyed several drones targeting oil facilities in the eastern province and Riyadh. He added that the attack was carried out by Iran-backed militias operating from Iraqi territory and stressed Saudi Arabia's right to respond in accordance with international law. Meanwhile, Kuwait, Egypt and Qatar strongly condemned the attacks, describing them as a violation of Saudi sovereignty, international law and the UN Charter, as well as a threat to regional security and stability. The three countries reaffirmed their full solidarity with the kingdom and support for measures to protect its security and territorial integrity. The Secretary General of the Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC, Jassim al-Budawi, also condemned and denounced the attack targeting the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, using drones launched by Iran-backed militias in Iraq. In a statement, al-Budawi described the attack as a dangerous escalation of flagrant violation of international law and a direct threat to regional security and stability. He reaffirmed the GCC's full solidarity with Saudi Arabia and its full support for all measures that the kingdom takes to safeguard its security, sovereignty and territorial integrity.
That was the news bulletin from SABA satellite channel from Marib. Thank you for watching and have a good time.